the people who underwent this ritual, this rite, were forbidden to speak about it. But we do know about it because some people talked about it on their deathbed. When they had nothing else to lose at the end of their life, they were like, well, I have to speak about this. So we have some people like Plato, many of the great, great minds of the ancient world went through the Eleusinian Mysteries, Plato being one of them. So Plutarch being another. We have these accounts from these incredible people. And what is a common thread among what they all said when they finally spoke about it was, once you go through this rite, you will never be afraid of death again, because you see the beauty that is waiting for us on the other side. And you come back and it makes life worth living because you know you have nothing to be afraid of anymore.
Welcome back, sacred travelers, to this episode of Mysteries of Greece, Oracle of Delphi and the Temple of Eleusis. And welcome with me, my dear guest, Jocelyn Star Feather. Jocelyn is a visibility and thought leadership coach for visionary entrepreneurs, spiritual alchemists, astrologer, and founder of Sacred Planet. She shares shamanic and ancient wisdom to guide courageous seekers in co-creating a revolutionary new world in alignment with Mother Earth and the vast intelligence of the cosmos. After a successful 15-year corporate career working in finance for major multinational companies, Jocelyn was thrust into a deep spiritual awakening. It was that awakening that turned her life upside down, and from which she emerged with a powerful understanding of how to use her intuition and healing abilities, aspects of herself that she'd never had access to before. She dove deeply into earth-based and shamanic practices, and she has studied alongside elders and wisdom keepers ever since. She has extensively studied ancient civilizations, especially cultures where the goddess held a strong presence, and she has spent profound and life-changing time in the ancient temples and pyramids of Egypt. You can learn more about Jocelyn's work on her website, that is www.wearesacredplanet.com, and also on her YouTube channel that is called Sacred Planet. Welcome, Jocelyn. I am so honored to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Julia. It's an honor to be here.
You know, you are such a great wisdom keeper, and especially the connection that is coming very much alive in you is actually the blueprint or the templates that are carried in Greece and also Egypt. And so today we are going to be talking about the mysteries of Greece. And there's two temples that you told me that you have a very, very special connection to, that is Delphi and also the Temple of Eleusis. So I would like to know, like, how have you discovered your personal relationship to these sacred sites?
Yeah, absolutely. So many interesting stories and synchronicities woven in there, of course, but one experience in particular really stands out that called me to Greece definitively. After having this experience, I knew I needed to go. And so it was a shamanic journey, and it started out as a pretty normal meditation, but what happened was so profound. It was really, really moving. There were bees that came, all of these bees, and they carried me to Greece. And so once I got to Greece, they were showing me all of these beautiful white buildings all around, just shining in the sun. And we were walking through the streets. And then we went in a doorway, and there was this spiraling black staircase leading downwards. And when I went down into this room, there was a priestess there, and she had this very intense kind of engagement with me. And from this conversation, it was extremely clear I needed to go to Greece. And so after that, I walked back up the spiral staircase and back out, and the bees flew me back home. And it was one of these experiences where I had gone so far into the other dimensions that I found it hard to, fully come back. And it just, the imagery from that journey and the vision of, seeing this priestess woman in front of me have just stayed with me over the years. So sometime soon after that, I went to Greece. And one thing that was really fascinating that I didn't I didn't expect and I didn't know that this would be there. When I went to the island of Crete, somehow we got off the beaten path one day and we found this man that said, you have to come up to the top of the mountain and see all the bees. And so on the island of Crete, which is this incredible place that just holds the energy of the ancient primordial goddess, so he took us up to the top of this mountain. And there were all of these bee boxes, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And apparently the bees there love this particular type of pine tree that grows at the top of that mountain, and they get their nectar from the pine trees. And it left such peace in my heart after being there, because I thought, all the challenges that bees are having all around the world. And I felt so in my heart, there will always be bees at the top of this mountain. Always, always. Yeah.
That's wow. I love that. And, I love that you're bringing up the bees. The consciousness of the bees in a ways is very much making itself present, I feel. And even in, the European cities, people start cultivating bees, and I hear people speaking about bees all around. I'm where is this coming from? It's very interesting. So there used to be bee priestesses in Greece all along. Tell us a little bit about that goddess culture and the connection to the primordial mother that was cultivated.
Yes, absolutely. So Greece is a fascinating place if we go back before maybe the history that we know, especially, and then weave that in, right? Weave that into the more familiar history there. So one aspect of it is the island of Crete. Now, the island of Crete is a very, very fascinating place because the Paleolithic goddess culture, which was very matrilineal, very, very feminine based and extremely connected with the earth. That Paleolithic goddess culture lasted longer on Crete than on anywhere else on the planet. So until about 1400 BC, when unfortunately that whole region was wiped out by volcanoes and other natural disasters at that time. But leading up to that, 2500 BC, 2000 BC, and advancing on, there was war in the lands all around. And there were invading tribes from the north and the east that were coming in and kind of changing the cultures. And because Crete is kind of isolated out there in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, it was sheltered from those invasions. And so what we see on the island of Crete is just incredible. If you ever get a chance to go to the Archaeological Museum in Heraklion, do it, because you will get a real felt experience of this. So what we find on the island of Crete is no weapons, a lot of art, the most incredibly beautiful art. And so that's what you experience as you walk through the Archaeological Museum in Heraklion. The pottery and the jewelry, they have this incredibly fine, small, tiny jewelry with the most beautiful details stamped into it. There are what's called Carfi goddess statues, and they're these goddesses that they have their hands up and their eyes up to the sky. And it's indicating the moment of epiphany when we encounter the great goddess, right? And it's so interesting because as far as we can tell from the writing there, they didn't have a name for the goddess. So, it wasn't Isis or Inanna or these kinds of names, right? On the island of Crete. It was just this expression of ecstasy and awakening that indicated that you're seeing her. She's here with us. So there's, so much I could say about the island of Crete, but it's this very magical place and you can feel the goddess there. Now, on mainland Greece, where we have Athens and we have Delphi and many other incredible places, there were, before the Romans and the more modern culture came in, there were an indigenous people there that were called in our, what we call them today, at least, as the Pelasgians, the Pelasgian people. And so this was also a Paleolithic goddess-based culture. And so, for example, the wife of Zeus, we all know about Zeus and his wife and his, infidelity to her and all that. But her name in the ancient goddess culture that was there, her name was Rhea. And so she was the mother. She was the ancient, the more primordial mother goddess. So that carried forward and that became infused into the culture of Greece as, the more modern, civilization came in, right? So this is part of the reason why Greece is such a special place. And they were also influenced largely by Egypt. So in any case, I'll pause there.
and I feel that, we are standing at this crossroads with Hecate. I was like, okay, which road do we go down now? There are so many.
Yeah.
Okay, but sticking for a little while with the great goddess, and I went to like hop to Delphi because you just briefly mentioned it, but I feel that this is also one of the places where we can see and we can feel this immense feminine presence, but then also this overlay of the masculine, like having made it the Apollon temple. So I would love to speak into that, if you can share a little bit more, what the ancient oracle site of Delphi used to be.
Yes, absolutely. So Delphi is quite an incredible place. Delphi is at the very top of a mountain called Mount Parnassus. And so it was a pilgrimage place in the ancient times because the oracle priestess was there. Now, there's so much to say. I'm deciding on the order of how to say everything. So it was a pilgrimage site. And people would travel hundreds of miles, even thousands of miles to come to the temple there and to ask their questions to the oracular priestess. So it's quite a journey because it's up the side of a mountain, right? This is fascinating. They didn't make it near Athens where it would be easy to travel to. It's about, by driving distance today, it's 2 or 3 hours north of Athens and at the top of a mountain. So when people were making their pilgrimages to go and ask the oracle their questions, they were sacrificing a lot. They were even, they were taking a huge amount of time away from their responsibilities, maybe away from their families or their kingdoms or whatever it might be, because they knew that she held the truth.
Hey, everybody, if you are enjoying the show, then you would do me the biggest favor in clicking the subscribe button and, engaging with my content so I can continue to deliver these beautiful conversations to you. Thank you so much.
So today, if you visit there, you will be able to go and climb up the mountain. And there's this beautiful winding path that takes you past the treasury building and past other buildings. And you will arrive at the temple of Apollo. And yes, that has the name of the masculine god. So this is a large rectangular temple. And on one side is where the priest would meet with the people and take the questions. And in the back of this temple is where the oracular priestess would be. I'm telling you about the modern first, then I'm going to go back in time from there. So in the more recent times, this is how it would work with the man at the gate, right? And then he would bring people into the sitting room and take their questions to the priestess. Now, the priestess, the oracular priestess, she was called the Pythia, which is referencing the ancient serpent earth wisdom held in this place. So I will talk about that in just a minute. But the Pythia, she sits on a 3-sided stool, a 3-legged stool, the tripod. And she's leaning over this great rift in the earth. And the smoke is coming up from the center of the earth and rising up. And so she's sitting in the midst of this. And she is, in her trance state, she is connected to the realms beyond. In more recent times, they would say she was talking to Apollo. In the more ancient time, she was talking to the Great Mother, right? So she's there and she is receiving the questions and she is speaking back the answers from the realms beyond. Now, people will come there to ask her, should I marry my son, the prince, to this princess of this other kingdom? What is the best time for us to go to war so we can be successful? Should my wife and I have children? These like really big life and kingdom management types of questions that influenced the history of the world, actually. The answers that the priestess would give, the Pythia would give, would influence major events in the world. And there are documented records of the answers that she gave and then what actually happened historically. And she was always right. Some of her answers would be very clear and direct. Some of her answers would be more cryptic, but it was always just, deeply tuned into the truth. There are many doubts whether the smoke coming up from the earth was a psychedelic, something psychedelic, or whether they were burning plants that were psychedelic. And we don't know for sure. It's possible. Maybe that was how she entered her deep state of connection with the beyond. Now, here are a few interesting things if we go further back in time. So at Delphi, the omphalos was there. Now, omphalos means the navel or the belly button. The omphalos is this rounded stone, and we find this at different places in the world, but one of the main ones that we're most familiar with is at Delphi. It is a beehive. That is the shape of the omphalos. It's not just a random, stone that's rounded at the top. It is a beehive. And we know that because the bees are carved in around the outside. The original one is now in the museum at Delphi. So you can see it there. And it is so beautiful. And it is so deeply feminine, right? This very, very rounded stone covered with bees and with the spiraling shape around it. And so this marked Delphi as the center of the earth, the center of the world for the ancient people. So interestingly, the mythology around the omphalos is that, again, now this is the more recent story, but I'm going to show you how it connects to the more. In the mythology, what we read is that Zeus wanted to find out where is the center of the world. And so he positioned two great eagles at either ends of the world to fly toward each other, and where they shall meet is clearly the center of the world. So where they met was over Delphi, and that's why the omphalos was placed there. And it was said that by doing this and by establishing Delphi as the center of the world, the serpents were driven out of Delphi. Now, this takes us to the more ancient. So the original knowledge, the original understanding that the people had about the Temple of Delphi was that it was the great mother, the great goddess that would be providing this information to the oracular priestess. And in evidence of that, there was a great serpent that lived there. Now, this is why the priestess, even in later times, was called the Pythia. Mm-hmm. The word being the same as the root of the word python, right? It means serpent. And if you go down the mountain just slightly from where the large, notice it's rectangular or square-shaped Temple of Apollo is at the top, very masculine, top of the mountain, square, straight lines, you will find a beautiful and far more ancient temple, which was the original oracular site. This temple is today called the Temple of Athena. It is round. It has 13 pillars, indicating the 13 moons of the year, the 13 months the 13 moons in the women's menstrual cycle.
Very feminine.
Very feminine. And so this temple, if you ever go to Delphi, you have to make sure, don't just see the Temple of Apollo. And it's amazing. The Temple of Apollo is so powerful. And you can go up the mountain and look down. It's just beautiful. But be sure to visit the Temple of Athena and go and see this incredible circular structure and feel the power there. Feel the energy here. This is where the serpent energy was held in that spiraling, right, vortexing circle of the temple. This was where the great goddess was known and honored. And this was where the original oracle site was for the Pythia.
Okay. Wow. So it's very much these balancing forces in a way. Beautiful. And I love how, like the bees are everywhere. There's always a bee story. Yes. So, and I mean, it truly attests that they are the keepers of life. And, it's sometimes I feel that it gives an even deeper meaning to when we say that there are no more bees, there is no more life on Earth. And I'm happy that you said bees will always be there, which means there's always going to be life. So
Yes, yes. The earth is so strong. The Great Mother is so strong. We need to come back into reciprocity with her, of course.
yeah.
And also, I trust her power. I don't think that, there's any way we can destroy her. So we will shift. We will come back into alignment somehow, but the bees will be there at the top of the mountains in Crete, remembering and holding that place.
That's a powerful and beautiful remembrance. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, true. And there is so much shifting. Like even at the time where we are recording this, I feel, a lot of people are in this phase of kind of like enoughness with and being done with like certain things or certain behaviors. And there's like this radical shift of what am I still willing to accept, but where do I want to go? And especially this reciprocity that you mentioned is a big theme that I feel is coming up. So how do you feel can we, when we tap into this ancient wisdom, bring these codes into the here and now, that they help us to create this present moment and to create this golden age?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I feel this is why, so many people are being called to study these ancient cultures, whether it's Greece or Egypt or Peru or Sumeria or Turkey or any other, ancient place, also the ancient North American civilizations. There is such power in studying these ancient cultures because it helps us to remember who we really are. And that's what I believe has happened here on the earth. We as humans for definitely the last few hundred years, but really this has been kind of happening progressively for a few thousand years. We have forgotten who we really are. We have forgotten that we are one with the earth. We are one with all the other creatures. And so when we visit these places, we remember that. It even if we maybe don't register that on a mental level immediately, it's like it comes back into our cells, it comes back into our energy body, it comes back into our subconscious awareness, and so that it can become conscious with us as well. And, certainly visiting Crete and visiting the the temples at Delphi and other places in Greece are such an awakening of the remembrance of the goddess. And, the bees are a part of that. Remembering our oracular abilities are a huge part of that, right? We all have this power of our intuition and our inner knowing and our ability to connect and communicate with the world around us. And there are so many forms of intelligence, animals, the plants, the earth, the stars, the sun and moon, they're all communicating with us all the time. And so I feel the ancient Greeks, certainly in the more ancient times, knew this. And even in the historical times, they knew this, they remembered it. And they also were relearning it from the Egyptians, which is interesting. But in any case, we start to remember this when we visit the ancient sites, right? We have this incredibly powerful ability to channel, to see the future, to know what the truth is, even when we're surrounded by lies, perhaps in this crazy world.
Yeah.
So that's what I think, on a personal level is maybe most important for each of us to focus on reawakening. And we can connect in with the Pythia, the oracular priestess in Delphi, and let her guide us because she is certainly an expert at these things. Let her help us reawaken that remembrance within ourselves.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I know that you've mentioned Egypt like the second time, and I feel I still like want to park this a little bit before asking the big question about the connection. But I know that there is another place in Greece that you have a very personal connection to. And I also feel that, speaking about bringing forward this new earth that is very much in a dream state right now and like fostering this oracular vision, this oracular gift that we all have. And when I tune into the Eleusinian Mysteries, that is very much to me like the energy that we work with, like this dream state and how we can, like the womb weaving, I want to call it in a way. And so, yeah, tell us more about these mysteries and the myth that actually is maybe partially her story in truth. So what is this all about?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as we look at the Eleusinian Mysteries, it is a bridge between Greece and Egypt. So it will be a good segue.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay.
So the Eleusinian Mysteries. Now, again, there's so much to say. So I'm kind of sorting what is what is most important to begin with. So let me just share a little bit about the mythology that helps us to understand what was going on in the Eleusinian mystery rites. So in the ancient Greek mythology, we have the great mother goddess Demeter and her daughter Persephone. And so one of the stories in the mythology is that, Demeter loves her daughter so much, so dearly, like her daughter is her whole world. And the correlation here is Demeter is the earth mother and we are her children. Okay, so this is a remembrance of how much the great goddess loves each and every one of us and how we are a part of her. But like all children and, teenagers, Persephone needs to claim her independence at some moment. So she runs off with a man. That man happens to be Hades, the lord of the underworld. So, every mom's most difficult situation, right? Daughter runs off with Hades. So in more recent versions of this story, Persephone is abducted, like she's stolen by Hades. But I believe in the more ancient version, it was her choice. Persephone chose to run off with Hades because she was in love with him. So they can't find Persephone. Persephone just disappears. She was standing in a field of flowers and the next minute she's gone and Demeter doesn't know where she went. And so everyone gets involved. Zeus, Hecate, different gods and goddesses get involved. And finally, they find Persephone and she is sitting on her throne as the queen of the underworld alongside Hades. And she doesn't really want to leave. She's pretty happy there being the queen and feeling her power. And so eventually there's much discussion and, arguing. And eventually Zeus and Hecate help Hades and Demeter to reach an agreement, which is that Persephone will spend 6 months of the year in the underworld with Hades and the other 6 months of the year in the above world with Demeter. And so the spring and summer then are when Demeter gets to have her daughter with her. And Demeter, as the earth mother, is happy and ebullient. And we have the spring and everything comes to life. And we have the summertime and we feel the life force all around us. And then in the autumn is when Persephone leaves and she's going to be away for 6 months and her mother is grieving and the leaves fall off the trees and everything goes into a dormant state until her daughter comes back. So this is why we have the seasons. So in the Eleusinian Mysteries, this was a celebration and an honoring of the story of Demeter and Persephone. Now it honors Demeter as the earth mother and all the gifts and all the abundance that the earth provides to support us in having life and having everything here on the earth. And that is symbolized by Demeter holding these shafts of grain, right? That symbolizes the life force. But also in the Eleusinian Mysteries, we experience Persephone's descent into the underworld and not knowing if she will return, right? And then at the end in the springtime, how she rises again and she comes back up to the above ground world and life is restored. So the Eleusinian Mysteries on a practical level for the people who are participating in it, it happened once a year and it was a profound initiation. And so people could participate at anyone in Greece so the qualifications that would allow you to participate in the Eleusinian Mysteries were you had to be a Greek citizen and you could never have murdered anyone. if you could fit those two qualifications, you're good. You can be a part of the Eleusinian Mysteries.
Okay.
Right? Pretty clear. So the initiates would go through training and studies all throughout the year. And then these rites, the Eleusinian rites, would be held in the autumn. And what would happen in the autumn was the initiates, they were prepared. They'd been studying all year. They would be brought to the site of Eleusis. It's a very magical place. If you're ever in Greece, it's very close to Athens, easy to visit from Athens. And so they would then have a procession. They would come into the temple area. And there was this building or this structure called the Telesterion. And this was where the mystery rites occurred. Very interestingly, and here's a little link with Egypt, is it's a hypostyle hall. It's a big hallway with these giant columns, just like we see in the temples in Egypt. So we know that this is connected to Egypt, and I'll expand on that in a little bit. So in these mystery rites, the initiates would come in and they would sit down and it was kind of like a theater space, and they would drink something that was called the kykeon. Now, we don't know exactly what this was, but it was definitely something psychedelic. It was most likely some mixture of wine and herbs and mushrooms, something like this, but it was something very strong. It was a strong psychedelic drink, and they would have an experience of going and essentially meeting the creator, basically seeing what would happen on the other side of death. And then they would come back. And it was incredible, the change in them after they went through this journey. Now, there's a lot more I could say about they would experience Persephone's journey to the underworld and coming back, right? And all orchestrated in the most beautiful ritual ways. But then they would come back. Now, the people who underwent this ritual, this rite, were forbidden to speak about it. But we do know about it because some people talked about it on their deathbed. When they had nothing else to lose at the end of their life, they were like, well, I have to speak about this. So we have some people like Plato, many of the great, great minds of the ancient world went through the Eleusinian Mysteries, Plato being one of them. So Plutarch being another. We have these accounts from these incredible people. And what is a common thread among what they all said when they finally spoke about it was, once you go through this rite, you will never be afraid of death again, because you see the beauty that is waiting for us on the other side. And you come back and it makes life worth living because you know you have nothing to be afraid of anymore. And you can live your life fully. It was just an incredibly beautiful experience. So that is what was happening at Eleusis, the Temple of Eleusis, the Eleusinian Mysteries. So I'll pause there, but I do want to be sure to tell the connection to Egypt.
Yeah.
Because it's essential for this.
We've left so many cliffhangers. So.
Yes, I know. So should I go right to that?
Go right into it. Yes.
Okay. So in Egypt, what was happening in Egypt? Well, one of the things that we see very little evidence of, but we can find the clues. We can find the clues here and there because there's very little evidence of it because it was the deepest mystery. It was the deepest and most important mystery. So this journey, how do we travel beyond this life? How do we leave our body and go and travel and see what it's like on the other side of the veil and then come back into the body? Now, in ancient Egypt, this was a science. And we, kind of the, standard academics or anthropologists, look at Egypt and say, why were they so fascinated with death? Well, this is because it was a science to them and they knew how to travel between life and death and make that journey. And when they wanted to come back into life. And so this is actually what was happening in the pyramids, for example. There have never been a dead body found in a pyramid in Egypt. They are not tombs. The pyramid of Unas at Saqqara, the pyramids on the Giza Plateau, and others. There are boxes. There are what we would call a sarcophagus there. But these were used for a very profound resurrection ritual where the people using this incredibly high consciousness in Egypt, I believe, at least in the far ancient times, they didn't even need the psychedelic medicines to do this.
Yeah.
Consciousness right?
Mm-hmm.
To travel out of the body, to go commune with the gods. I mean, there are texts written in the hieroglyphs about how to travel out to the stars and then come back, and which stars to go to, and what is the pathway, which stars do you look for first, and then where do you go to, and how to get back in. Now, again, this was closely guarded, so it's not written frequently in the hieroglyphs. It was more so passed down only from the high priests and high priestesses to the next generation of high priests and high priestesses. But we do see clues. One of the clues is the constellation of the Big Dipper, Ursa Majora. And so there's something called the opening of the mouth tool. And this was used for one thing as a mummification tool, but also it was used in the resurrection rituals. And we see this in the hieroglyphs. For example, in the Temple of Abydos, we see the god Thoth administering the rite of resurrection to King Seti I. And so the opening of the mouth tool is the exact same shape as the Big Dipper. And the reason that they were focused on this particular constellation and a couple of other constellations that are very far north is that these are the imperishable stars. These are the immortal stars. They represent our eternal soul, the eternal nature of our soul, and our ability to always, always, always be resurrected. Because these stars, so the Big Dipper being one of them, Cygnus, the Swan, or the Northern Cross is another one. They're visible on every night of the year that you would have a clear sky. They never go into the underworld as most stars do. They never become invisible. So in any case, the ancient Egyptians knew how to do these resurrection rituals. And so they passed that along in their knowledge to the Greeks, to the Greek philosophers. And what's interesting is that in Egypt, it was so closely guarded, like only the highest level of priests and priestesses would undergo resurrection ceremonies. In Greece, they opened it up to everybody. Fascinating, right? So, but this is a clue as to what was happening further back. It's just that in Greece, they let everybody do it as long as you hadn't killed a They did try to keep it a secret in Greece, though, by saying you cannot ever speak about this upon pain of death. But then again, people on the deathbed did talk about it. Yeah.
Wow, that is big. Like, I guess that is probably the most sacred knowledge about, life, death, and the cycle of life, death, and rebirth that one can be aware of.
Yes. Right. Right. And they had just such a profound knowledge of this in the ancient times. They were just clearly so deeply connected in with the cosmos, connected in with the earth. And so they understood. And this is so much of what we've forgotten. And then we live in fear. We're terrified of death in our world today. Right. And we doubt ourselves and we doubt our abilities. We doubt this eternal nature of the soul. And we just doubt ourselves on, smaller, more personal levels too. And we don't need to. We are so powerful. And so these ancient cultures can help us remember that as well, just how powerful and profoundly capable and infinite and magical beings we actually are.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I feel this is so big. I just want to take a deep breath just now to acknowledge, and to take all of that in, because I feel it takes for some people, it can also be, very scary to venture into these places of the underworld. So it's beautiful that you just brought up all about these, not just the mystery, but it's actually this rites of passage or initiatory path in a way of like consciously working with these energetics to be able to understand and also cultivate in your body that it becomes a lived experience in a way.
Yes, truly. And, that's why they kept it a secret in Egypt. As I said, very, very few people would ever go through that ritual. It is documented the pharaoh had to go through that ritual every 30 years to prove his fitness to be.
Every 30 years? Okay.
Yeah, every 30 years. I think, and some of them would do it more often, to prove that they were strong and connected with the gods. But it was really very few. It was just the high priests, high priestesses, and the pharaohs that would go through it. So this is deeply sacred knowledge, deeply sacred knowledge. I think we need it now. It's interesting because the Greeks kind of knew that everybody needs to know this for where we're going
Here it
next.
is.
They kind of knew that. They like opened it up. And then we really need this now. We need to know it now. And I do believe that the huge rise of interest in psychedelic plants and sacred plant medicines is a part of this, because you do go on that journey, especially with, particular plants where you do go beyond that veil and then come back. Right. So, and that is a life-changing experience. And I really feel we need this knowledge today so we can remember who we really are and how powerful we really are.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And at the same time, I still feel that, it is very helpful to have a dedicated sacred container to explore these truths, because otherwise it can also lead to, fatal overwhelm on a personal level, or to collateral damage in a way. So I'm a strong believer of it really makes sense to explore this in a dedicated, sacred way of honoring these teachings.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We need good guides to step forward and be the leaders. And yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to check in with you how you feel about, because it could be a great opportunity now. We've talked so much, and it's a lot of mental information to process, to go into a little experience. Would you have still time for that?
Yes, I can stay on until about 15 minutes past the hour. So I could stay on about another 20 minutes.
Okay. So would you be open to lead us into a little embodied experience to kind of integrate everything that we've heard?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to.
Thank you. Okay.
So inviting everybody listening to get comfortable in your space. And so do whatever that means for you. If you feel most comfortable laying down so you can fully relax, if you're in a safe place to lay down, go ahead and do that. And if you like to sit up with your spine straight, that's wonderful too. Whatever makes you feel really comfortable. And then go ahead and close your eyes when you're ready. And let's take a deep breath together, breathing into your heart. And as you breathe in, really feel the abundance of the sunlight and the oxygen and all the beautiful gifts from the earth and cosmos flowing into your heart, and then circulating all around your body. And then breathe out very slowly, allowing yourself to come fully present here in this moment. And let's take another deep breath in, breathing in all of that abundance that is offered to us continually here on this miraculous planet. And breathing out slowly, slowly, becoming more and more present. And I invite you to now imagine yourself standing in a beautiful place in nature where you can see a powerful sacred site on this land. And maybe you find yourself looking at the oracular priestess temple of Delphi, maybe a temple in Egypt. Just really trust whatever is shown to you here. And I invite you to really feel the sun shining on your face. Allow yourself to be barefoot if that feels aligned for you, with your feet connecting in with the earth, and the soles of your feet receiving the beautiful, unconditional love of the Great Mother from below. And taking a deep breath into your heart once again, go ahead and step forward and step into this powerful sacred site. And maybe you're stepping into a stone circle like Stonehenge or a temple. Just allow yourself to enter this powerful space and begin to explore around. Begin to explore the structure of this sacred site. Maybe placing your hands on the stones. Maybe noticing any writings, inscriptions, or hieroglyphs that are here. And also noticing how the light streams into this place. And allow that light and the power of this sacred place to send you a deep remembrance of who you have been before. Maybe you lived in or near this very sacred site that you're visiting now. And as that light shines on you, shines into this sacred place, open your heart to receive this remembrance. Who were you in this previous time? And what did you know? What lineages might you have carried? And what deep knowledge and wisdom did you carry in your heart? I'll give you a minute or so now just to experience this and really take in this remembrance of your deep ancient self. Take just a few more seconds, remembering, reconnecting with your power, your wisdom, your magic. And now I invite you to place your hands either on one of the stones or perhaps on the earth beneath you, and ask any question that might rise up in your heart. Go ahead and ask this sacred site. It can be a big question, a deep question from your life. And then open your heart to receive the response from this place. And now, having received that answer, that wisdom from this sacred site, you are suddenly flooded with the realization and the remembrance that this structure is perfectly aligned to certain important stars in the cosmos above. And it is built at the confluence of very powerful ley lines and underground water currents below. And as you're standing there, now you feel the beautiful high intelligence from the cosmos streaming in from the great above into your crown chakra and filling every cell with starry wisdom. And then the beautiful rainbow colored energy from the ley lines and the water currents below, flowing up into the soles of your feet, in through your root chakra, and also circulating all around your body, filling you with the beautiful, unconditional love and healing from the great goddess, Mother Earth. So allow yourself to receive these gifts from the great above and the great below. Allow them to swirl and integrate within your physical body, within your energy body. And then send your love and gratitude as an offering to this sacred site and to the cosmos above and to the earth below. Feel all the love, all the gratitude that you hold in your heart for what you've experienced here today. And then slowly, slowly now, we're going to begin coming back from the journey. Coming back into your body, taking a deep breath in, feeling that breath move through your throat and settle in the heart. And then breathing out, gradually coming back. You might want to wiggle your fingers and toes. Help you arrive back in this moment once again. And welcome back, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Wow, thank you so much. That was beautiful. So much love and so much light and so much trust that I felt. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
I really feel that it was a great way to drop all of these codes and infuse ourselves with what we just heard. So thank you so much for that final piece. I feel it's really the completion now of what we talked about.
It helps us to integrate and receive everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so as we are coming to an end, I just, want to say thank you so much. That was really, really beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that wisdom. And I truly, truly believe that everybody who's listening and watching will have so many codes to decipher and so many clues and keys where to go next for their own personal journey. And I also know that you do have trips coming up to Egypt, if I'm not mistaken. So if anybody is interested, check out. We're going to put the links in the show notes, and you can reach out to Jocelyn.
Yes, we have 2 trips to Egypt in 2025. So I would love to have you join me there.
Yay! Amazing. Any final piece of advice or wisdom that you want to share?
Well, I would just say, remember who you truly are. Remember who you truly are. You are so powerful. You are so much more powerful than what you've been told in this modern world. And when we go back to these places and these times from the ancient and indigenous knowledge, we can remember.
And so it is. Thank you. Thank you, Jocelyn, for coming. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure and honor to have you. And my whole body is vibrating. So lots of energy running through now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Julia, for creating these beautiful spaces. It's been an honor to speak with you today, and much love to you and much love to everybody listening out there.
Yay. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we hope that you can take some pearls of wisdom for your own journey. And I'll see you next time.